I still remember the moment clearly, the way his eyes pleaded without him saying a word. His name was Jason, my best friend's younger brother, freshly 21, and lost in a world that didn't seem to care about him. He had just moved into our neighborhood after dropping out of college, a shadow of the bright, ambitious boy I had once known. I hadn't seen him in years, not since those childhood summers when he would tag along behind us, always quiet, always watching. But this Jason, he was different now. Grown, broken, and yet something about him drew me in. Maybe it was the pain he wore like armor. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, like I was the only one who ever saw past the wreckage. At first, it was innocent. I offered to help him settle in, brought over home-cooked meals, helped him fix up his place. He needed a job, and I pulled a few strings to get him an interview at the local bookstore where my friend Rachel worked. He was grateful, but there was something deeper in his silence, in the way he lingered every time I visited. One rainy evening, he showed up at my door, soaked, trembling, and desperate. "I didn't know where else to go," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the sound of the storm. I gave him a towel, made tea, and sat beside him on the couch. His hands were cold, his eyes red. "You've always been kind to me," he said, voice cracking. "You don't know what that means." I smiled gently, placing a hand over his. "Sometimes, people just need someone to believe in them." He looked up at me with that haunted gaze, and for a moment, the air changed. Time paused. I wanted to help him, and I couldn't resist. From that night on, things between us changed. He started spending more time in my house. At first, it was practical meals, laundry, the occasional ride to work. But it turned into late-night conversations about life, the kind where the world outside disappears. Jason was vulnerable in a way that made him seem older and younger all at once. He confided in me about his struggles, his battles with self-worth, with feeling like he never measured up. I found myself looking forward to our talks. His presence became something I craved, like a familiar melody that played in the back of my mind. I kept reminding myself that I was only trying to help, but deep down, I knew it had gone beyond that. One night, after a particularly long shift, I found him asleep on my couch, the television still playing some old comedy show. A blanket had slipped off his shoulders. I quietly placed it back over him, but as I did, he stirred and opened his eyes. "You're always looking out for me," he said, his voice husky from sleep. "I care about you," I replied, brushing hair from his forehead. "That's all." He looked at me for a long moment before speaking again. "Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if more people cared like you do." His words lingered in the air long after he fell back asleep. I sat beside him for hours, watching the rise and fall of his chest, caught in a storm of my own emotions. In the weeks that followed, our connection deepened. He helped me paint my guest room, fix a leaky faucet, even reorganize my garage. We laughed more, shared stories, and leaned into a comfort that felt too natural. I kept telling myself I was guiding him, giving him the support he needed. But my heart wasn't as detached as I pretended. Then one evening, we took a walk down to the lake. The sky was painted in hues of gold and orange, and the breeze carried the scent of pine. We sat on a bench near the water, our hands almost touching. "You make me feel safe," he said suddenly. I turned to him. "You deserve to feel safe. And loved." Jason hesitated before he replied. "I think I've started to feel something more. Something I probably shouldn't." My heart pounded in my chest. I looked away, unsure of what to say. I had known, of course. I just hadn't allowed myself to admit it. Not until now. "It's complicated," I finally said. "But you're not alone." He reached out and gently took my hand. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. We sat like that for a while, saying nothing, just watching the water ripple in the fading light. From that day on, there was a quiet understanding between us. We never crossed any lines, but the emotional closeness grew. Friends began to notice. My best friend, Emily, his sister, asked me outright one day, "Are you getting too close to Jason? He's had a rough time. Don't let him get the wrong idea." I didn't have an answer. All I could say was, "I just want to help." And I did. But the truth was, I couldn't resist the bond we had formed. Eventually, Jason got a full-time job and moved into his own apartment across town. We still kept in touch, but the space gave both of us room to breathe. Time passed, and the intensity faded into something more stable, more grounded. We still talked often, but now it was less about need and more about choice. One day, he invited me over for dinner. As I walked into his place, I noticed the framed photo on his shelf, a picture of us, laughing on the dock at the lake. "You kept this," I said, surprised. "Of course," he replied. "That summer changed everything for me. You helped me find myself again." Tears welled in my eyes, but I smiled. "I'm proud of you, Jason." He hugged me, holding on for a long time. There was nothing romantic in it anymore, just a bond that had been forged through kindness, patience, and something a little like love. I wanted to help him, and in the end, I think we both saved each other.